This episode is brought to you by Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard of Anchor, you should definitely check them out. It's a super easy tool that anyone can use to create and distribute their podcast. It has everything you need, and you can do it all from your computer or even your phone. Need your podcast cover art? There's a tool. Music and sound effects? They have you covered. Want to record on the fly? It's easy with the app. Now you may be saying to yourself, I already have a podcast. No worries, just create your account, upload, and publish to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Looking for some walking around money? Anchor connects you with advertisers who match your brand. It's a one-stop shop for all of your podcasting needs. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started.
You're listening to BizQuik. This is where Julie and Corey provide quick and useful information to small business owners. BizQuik is the podcast where small business owners get to showcase their businesses and receive expert advice and guidance in areas many entrepreneurs struggle with. And you, the listener, get solutions, tips, and tricks on real-world topics that many small business owners face. Julie and Corey are the experts small businesses hire when they need solutions. And the BizQuik podcast is just one way they deliver those solutions. Let's start the show.
Hello and welcome to BizQuik. I'm Julie.
And I'm Corey.
And on today's show, we have Ari Witt. She is the owner of Digital Nomad Designs. She is the most requested or most recommended web designer I've ever known in my life. She's from San Diego, California, and she has set out on a quest in 2021 to make herself continuously uncomfortable. So we're really looking forward to talking to Ari. But before we bring her in, Corey and I are going to talk about being uncomfortable.
Yeah, let's make this as uncomfortable for our listeners as we can, too. Challenge.
I don't know how we do that. How do we do that?
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure we can figure out a way. Let's just get in an argument. Let's spend the next 7 minutes just arguing.
Yeah, people get really uncomfortable when other people are arguing, right?
Yeah,
So we could, but I
really
don't.
do. You remember like when you were a kid and like somebody else's parents would argue? Like you'd be at their house and be like, oh, I don't know what to do here.
Right. Yeah, you're like, ooh, you're kind of like, should I leave?
Yeah.
That's also like, have you ever been out like with like, you've been out to dinner or something and you're with a couple and the couple starts arguing and you're like, oh.
I actually don't mind that because I'm like, I can ignore it. Well, whatever, because I've grown up and I can just ignore that and be like, whatever.
Oh, Corey, you've grown up, have you really?
Well, from being awkward around like parents,
okay,
like, my friends' parents arguing versus just whatever out with a couple, they just argue like, all right, whatever, jerks. I'm gonna continue with my life. You guys can ruin the night.
Yeah. Ooh, you know what? When we're talking about uncomfortable, I just thought about this and I want to bring it up. I have the one thing. There is an episode of The Office that every time I watch it, I just cringe to the point where I can't even really watch the episode because it's so uncomfortable. Well, actually, there's two of them. One of them is my favorite episode, and one of them I'm like, I can't watch it. The one that I can't watch is Phyllis's wedding.
Oh, when Michael gets up and like starts talking.
It's so uncomfortable. The other one that's really uncomfortable but is fantastic to watch, like it's cringeworthy though, The Dinner Party.
Oh, that one's great. That's not uncomfortable at all. That one's great.
No, that is uncomfortable.
No, it's
when Michael and Jan start fighting. It's
but
fantastic.
Again, that's where I'm just like, I'm more like Dwight in that situation where I'm like, oh, hey, this is great. Have you tried the wine? Whatever, it's fine.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but you're a lot like Dwight in real life.
I'm well aware of that.
But for me, not like a making other people uncomfortable or being made uncomfortable by other people. Do you ever strive to put yourself in situations where you are uncomfortable or where you make yourself uncomfortable so you can grow?
Honestly, not really. I don't think I've ever gone out of my way to do it. I mean, launching SB Pace and a lot of the stuff that we've been doing has been in new, like kind of put me in new territories. For instance, not being on social media or trying to stay off the internet as much as possible. And I've had to give that up, obviously, for this business. We've got a podcast.
Thank you.
I still don't like it, but no, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't really like try to make myself uncomfortable in that instant, like in that way, I guess.
Yeah, I know that, you really, before we started, there was pretty much not a lot of presence of you on the internet. So getting you to do videos and put them on YouTube, or videos for SB Pace and put them on our Instagram channel was a big thing. So that, I'm sure, was uncomfortable for you. I think doing videos initially for me was really uncomfortable. I still don't like to do lives on any social channel, but overall, I just embrace that part of it. I get more uncomfortable in situations where I'm around a lot of people. I think there's a tendency for people to make the assumption that I'm an extrovert that really enjoys being around people, when the reality is I'm an introvert and I hate most people.
We've discussed this before. You were such a liar about that.
I am
You
not.
are the biggest social butterfly. Like one of the most socialist of butterflies that I know. But you're like, but I'm secretly an introvert. No, you're such a liar.
I'm not. I guess, good example, when I was just in Montana, right, for the 365 Driven event. Shout out Tony Watley and his wife Lisa, because it was amazing. And we haven't done a podcast on that. We probably should. But I was probably the quietest person there.
I find that so hard to believe.
It's true though. I'm more of a lurker and a watcher. I just like to, like, I'll talk to people. I don't mind talking to people, but I'm not comfortable. Like, I never set out to be like the center of attention.
Yeah, and so I wonder, let's, if we're talking about that, I would love to bring some people into the conversation who were there to get their opinion of what you were in terms of being social and talkative and all of that. Because, like, I think in your head you think that you're being reserved or whatever, but you're not really.
Because my definition of reserved is very different than yours.
It is, possibly, but also, like, I think that I'm not saying that you're not uncomfortable in a situation like that, or it's not ideal, but for you, like, a coping method for being in that situation is to be social, is to talk, is to, like, face it head on, to say, oh, I'm in a situation I don't like, so I'm going to own the shit out of this and talk a lot.
First off, thank you. I'm going to take that as a compliment. I don't know if you intended it that way, but
it wasn't intended to be an insult. So.
But I am more, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that, and I'm going to have to digest it and ruminate on it a little bit. Maybe that is my coping mechanism. A lot of times, my instinct, just in general, is to say no to things, right? Like, no, I don't want to do that. And when I know instinctively that I want to say no, I almost always force myself to say yes, because I feel like it's going to be a really big opportunity. I don't know if you know this or not. I wanted to cancel going to Montana. I didn't want to go for a number of reasons. But one, I didn't want to get on a plane, and I didn't want to lose a day on both ends. And I didn't want to, spend 5 straight days with people who were just constantly talking. I was very anxious about it. So, but I suffered silently, Corey. That's what I did. But we should wrap up, because then bring Ari in. She's waiting for us, and we can resume the uncomfortable conversation when we get her involved.
Sounds good.
All right.
Hey everyone. If you're like most entrepreneurs out there, time is not something you ever seem to have enough of. We get it. There are a million things that need your attention, both in business and in your personal life. That's why we created Time Bomb. This is a self-paced course designed to help you determine what your time is worth and where you should be spending those precious hours every day. Right now, we have an option to buy the bundle, which also includes products designed to help you become more efficient with your time. It's a $70 deal you're getting for only an additional $30. Head on over to sbpace.com to learn more. Time Bomb. Take control of your calendar, gain control of your life.
All right, welcome back. We've got Ari Witt with us now. Ari, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And we're going to start off with asking you to tell us about your biggest failure.
Ooh, okay. I like that question, jumping right into it. All right. Let's see. I feel like this is the type of question I should have at the top of my head. I do have a lot from when I first started my business. So I'll definitely talk about one of those. When I first started and I realized that it was no longer just me that was going to be doing all the work and that I needed help, I made the mistake of rushing into hiring somebody just because I was desperate to get somebody in. So I did a couple of interviews that I was like, okay, I need somebody in right now. So I hired somebody, and they were a big disappointment. It was somebody who didn't live up to the quality of the work that we like to live up to, and just the communication wasn't there. And so the failure there was just me not realizing, like, it's so much more worth it to take the extra time and find somebody who lives up to the expectations that you're looking for, as opposed to just rushing into it. And to take that a step further, I've now realized that not only do you need to take time to make sure that they actually can do the work that you're looking to get done, but that they're also a culture fit, that it's not just about the skills, but it's about, do they actually blend in with the rest of the team? Do they bring a good dynamic to the rest of the team? And yeah, are they a culture fit? Do they align with the core values that you represent? So that was a failure in the beginning, something that I have learned from ever since then. And I feel pretty confident about our hiring process now because of that.
And for everybody out there listening, that was not a scripted question or answer. We often talk about how important it is that you hire based upon culture and core values, and that the people who work for you fit into those. And so that's a great answer. So appreciate that. But let's jump into really why we brought you on. And that's the journey that you started this year, I guess, in terms of getting yourself into uncomfortable situations when it comes to business and personal growth and all of that. And I think that it's a very important thing for people to do, especially in business, because you don't want to stay stagnant. And the uncomfortable situations are usually the ones that are going to help you grow. So would you mind telling us about why you made that decision and what you've been doing?
Yeah. So you're referring to my word of the year of being uncomfortable?
Yes.
Oh, I love that you guys know that already. Yeah, I've got it on my phone. I've got uncomfortable that I look at every single day. I write it down in my calendar every week to be uncomfortable at some point. So my journey this year, I mean, I've known basically since I started my business in 2018 the importance of being uncomfortable, and how, if anybody looks at their greatest achievements or accomplishments in life, they've all started from a place of being uncomfortable, and you have to start there in order to get to where you want to go. And that was how I started my business. It was on the foundation of being uncomfortable in a variety of situations. But you're talking about this year. To back up, the reason why I decided, okay, this year I'm going to be uncomfortable, I'm going to lean into that, is, last year was a huge year of growth for my business. And I know the benefits of when you're in that growth mode, that's when you have to step on the gas and kind of compound that growth. So I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm continuing to lean into this uncomfortableness. So this year it's really been about what kind of new things can I try? So jujitsu is one of those. It's been a few weeks since I've gone to one of the classes just from traveling and such, but jujitsu is super uncomfortable in every aspect, not only because you're using your body to fight and defend yourself, but you're also physically close to people. And I go to women's classes, and it's these badass women, a lot of brown belts, black belts, and I'm just barely can do the drills. But I have also seen myself get better within just a couple of months time, and it's also had other positive effects like making myself feel more confident, and knowing that I can like handle certain situations. There's other instances of uncomfortableness that I've leaned into this year, such as hiring a speaking coach, um, being in situations where there's a lot of people, a lot of talking, is very uncomfortable for me. But I know that in order to succeed in, the achievements that I want to accomplish, I need to get better at that. And so hiring a speaking coach, coming up with a full speech, super uncomfortable, but I know that that's going to get me to the next level. Hope that answered the question.
Totally did. And also want to tell our listeners, not scripted. I just in the intro part got done telling Corey how uncomfortable I get in large groups of people, and
Yeah.
having that engagement and talking. I don't really get uncomfortable speaking in front of people, but I just don't like to be around a lot of people. It's uncomfortable for me. Two things I do want to say, that shout out, you just recently got your white belt in jiu-jitsu, right?
But yeah, everyone starts with a white belt, but I got an extra degree, which is like a stripe.
Good job. Congratulations. And the other thing that I want to say is, so we know each other through Arate. And what's interesting is that, we literally, as part of your introduction, we talked about how you are the most highly recommended web designer that I've ever encountered in my life, right? Like, and there in that group, you have such confidence and poise, but you're always super kind and polite and just generous with your feedback, whoever asks for it. But one would never know how uncomfortable you get in, situations just based on like your social profile. And I don't even believe that you're not faking it on social media. It's just really uncomfortable for you to do some of the things that you're doing. And it's nice to see that other side of you. And I know even being on this podcast is uncomfortable for you.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I just came back from two, business related events, Arte and Emily's event. And both of those are uncomfortable to be around that many people and socializing in a way where you don't really have anything prepared. It's just like whatever you engage in conversation, and whatever happens. But I also know that like the outcome of both of those events was new business, new relationships, new friends. And so it was, it's totally worth it. In the moment, it's uncomfortable. It kind of sucks, but you also have to remember that there's a huge benefit at the end, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
How do you choose what you're going to do next? So, I mean, for a lot of people, it just might make sense to try something new. I've never been good at X, so I'm just going to pick that up. I mean, picking up jiu-jitsu, I've done some MMA training in my past, and I can definitely attest to how uncomfortable that is. It's extreme cuddling with strangers, basically. So yeah, but I mean, do you go in? Do you have a goal before you start, or is it just you're just trying to expand your horizon, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. I think that this year I've realized like there's so many like women out there who are just freaking badass, and so I wanted to lean into like, okay, what kind of like inner badass can I bring out? And so when I was thinking about that, I was like, okay, jujitsu is one of those, just because it's a sport. I've always been athletic, and so part of it was looking at other role models and seeing like maybe what is it that they're doing to bring out that badass in them. And I love Jocko, and he's got a jiu-jitsu gym out here that now that it's open, we want to start going to. And then as far as speaking, like there's a lot of really well-spoken women out there who do speaking engagements, and not that I necessarily want to do that, at least not yet, but seeing those kinds of people as role models makes me want to do that as well. It makes me like want to lean into that and realize that if they're doing if they're doing that to become their better versions of themselves, then I want to do that too. So how do I choose the next thing? I think it's just being inspired by other like role models that are out there and seeing like what's the next thing that's going to make me lean into that badassness.
Well, you recently wrote a post that in its own was somewhat badass, about being a boss and what that means. And we would love it if you would kind of touch on that topic and what being a boss means to you and how a lot of people tend to view that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that definitely got a lot, like some nice engagement. People, agreed with it. I think because this is something that was talked a lot about at the last Women in Business event that I was at. A lot of times being a boss is looked at on social media as somebody, in front of their private jet or with stacks of cash, or on the other side, on the more feminine side, it's having a pretty office or glittery whatever. And it's so much more about like the grittiness of owning a business, and it's getting in the trenches, doing the work that maybe nobody else like wants to do, and so it's staying up late and getting up early if it's necessary, but it's also building and empowering your team. And really the last couple months, my mindset as far as being a boss has shifted to, like, I think the old term of being a boss is more like putting your feet up on the desk and, telling people what to do. But it's to me, it's so much more about like, how can I help this team member grow? How can I provide them the resources to learn what they want to learn? Like we've got a few UX designers. One of them wants to learn more about animation and motion design. So maybe it's, how can I provide you a class to learn more about it? Or we're all remote, so maybe it's, how can I find a way for us to all meet up in person? And just finding ways to like empower the team and help them grow, I think is so much more of a boss than the old term of kicking your feet up and telling people what to do. And then also there's an internal part where it's, how can I better myself? And it's this weird balance, because sometimes I feel selfish about it, but it's important when you're running a business to really make sure that you're as cheesy as it sounds, a boss in your own life, where you're making sure that your like physical health or your nutrition and then your mindset and all of these things are at a high level, so that you can like operate as a boss and be there for your team and your people.
Yeah, I think being selfish is one of the best gifts that we can give ourselves. Right? Because it gets such a negative play, but I don't know if you've read or listened to Tim Grover's Winning yet, but he has an entire chapter dedicated to being selfish, and is by far my favorite chapter, because it's really just about investing in yourself and making yourself better for all of those people around you. And when you're running a company and you're responsible for putting food on the table for other people, you have to be selfish about how you approach that, because you want them to continue to be able to thrive in your company.
Yeah. I have the book. I haven't read it yet. I'm finishing one and moving on to that one. But it's so true. Like, especially now, there's so much outside noise that it can be that most people are focusing on that outside noise, that if you really want to separate yourself from average, it's like going internal and seeing how you can be a better person, because that's going to help you be a better person for the rest of the world. And I think especially with like last year, like even there were even times where I found myself like focusing too much on like outside noise, and I could feel myself like kind of drifting back. And then when I focused on myself, bettering myself, I was like, okay, this is going to help me, my team, the people around me.
Yeah, and taking care of yourself is something that a lot of entrepreneurs forget to do, and it's really important, because if you have if you're having a shitty day and you go into work, I mean, that sets the tone for the day, and your employees pick up on it, and the customers pick up on that, and it just, kind of cascades down. So being able to take care of yourself so that you can minimize that and minimize the, how your personal feelings are affecting your work is super helpful. And yeah, that's definitely something, because people, when you read all of these entrepreneur boards or small business, it's, I worked 80 hours this week and I still have the weekend to go and all of that nonsense. It's like, hey, take a minute, take care of yourself.
Right. Yeah. I believe in like non-negotiables for me are things like getting a workout in a day, fast, like most of the time intermittent fasting, drinking water. Like there's non-negotiables, I think, that are helpful to not get trapped into that, like, I guess the extreme hustle mentality.
Yeah. I want to go back and touch a little bit too on that whole employee piece when you were talking about that and the things that you do for your team. And what it really made me think about was just sort of affirming the work. So Corey's about to open a restaurant, and we've basically Corey and SB Pace are working with Corey, the client, on opening up his restaurant. And we've been talking a lot about that hiring and the need for the core values, but also that ability to like really be able to provide that positive feedback and do those things. And knowing Corey the way that I know him, and he's not great on giving positive feedback. Sort of his mentality is, if I'm not telling you suck, you're doing a good job, which, and me trying to explain, some people need to hear more than that. So it's okay if he can't do that himself, but having someone on his team that can do that, making sure that someone else can handle that piece of it if it's not something that he is good at or wants to start doing, but that people need an opportunity to hear they're doing a good job. And people also need that opportunity to grow. So career path is a really big part of what we're doing for his restaurant. And I think that's fairly unusual in that industry.
It is. And just in my own defense, I say no news is good news. I don't say I'm not telling you suck, you're doing good.
Yeah,
no, that's not the same. So at the end of the shift, if I haven't said anything negative to you, if I haven't said anything to you at all, you did a great job. And that's all you need to know.
I'm going to need Ari to take my side on this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think like I think it's helpful to praise people when they're doing a good job, but not only that, but I seriously feel like everything comes back to core values. Like there's so many other dynamics of like, you did a good job or you didn't, that I think that's where core values comes in. And so we actually just recently started doing like core value awards, and as like cheesy as it sounds, it instills the culture, and it shows that there's other components besides, you did a good job or you didn't. There's other parts to it. There's other parts such as like how you communicated with the team or the client, or did you go the extra mile, things like that. And calling out like the specifics of why they did a good job or not is helpful.
I love that. And I used to work for a company where we gave core value awards, and until you just said that, I completely forgot about that. But it's such a good way to keep those core values front and center for everybody. I love that you do that. All right, we need to wrap up, but this has been great. And honestly, we could talk to you for hours. So can you tell our listeners how they can find you?
Yes. So I am on Instagram, of course. It is ari.witt, ari.witt. If you want my website, it's Digital Nomad Designs with an S at the end.com.
Perfect. And we'll put all of that in our show notes for our listeners. And Ari, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this was uncomfortable for you, but we're really, really glad to have you here. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Oh shit! I just did your.
That's all right. We can do this. No worries.
I am so sorry. I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah, that's fine. But anyway, you can connect with us on social media. We've got LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We've got a YouTube channel. And if you ever need to find anything out about our business, you can reach us on sbpace.com.
Yeah. And go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're doing that, like us and give us a review. 1 star, 5 star. We don't care. We'll take it. We love feedback. Oh, and you can reach out to... I am just butchering this today.
You are just terrible today.
And you can reach out to us about topics that you want to hear about, or if there's a guest you want us to bring back on, let us know and we'll do it. So...
You want to read the next one too?
No, I'm so sorry.
If you want to... Oh, crap, now I screwed up. Don't forget to buy our book. It's Seriously Now What? A Small Business Guide to Disaster Preparedness. It's available on Amazon. You can find the link on our website. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. We've got a digital workbook download, and if you've already purchased it and read it, make sure to like it and give us a review.
Yeah, I'm Julie playing the role of Corey on this outro.
Apparently, and I'm just confused.
This was BizQuik, helping small businesses across America.